My friends, I'm opening the first 50 spots for something new I've built, the Mental Fitness Blueprint. It's not content, it's not a course, it's a personalized operating system for your mind, built from everything I've learned through thousands of conversations, interviews, and years of practice. If you feel like this is for you, follow that curiosity, and details are in the show notes or at mchampagne.com. Who are you?
That's a question and a half, Mark. Especially as an opener. Who am I? Do you want a politically correct version, or do you want just the one that comes straight to my? I have no idea who I am. If you want to say it straight out, who am I in terms of public perception of a person who teaches breathing exercises? Who am I beyond that? Do any of us know who we are?
What are some of the characteristics right now, or personality traits and so forth, that you identify most right now? Because that, I say right now because it evolves, of course, over time as we're just growing as humans. But for you right now, like walking around in this world and doing your work, like what are some of those foundational characteristics that really, link well to who you are?
I was lucky enough. I found somebody that really suits my skill set, my talent. I enjoyed the work. I think that makes a massive difference. A lot of people, they fall into or they go into employment and it may not necessarily be suited to them. I don't think there's enough attention paid on that. A big component since I was in my 20s was never to have massive stress as a result of making money. And there's plenty of people making money and they're under massive stress, and it's simply not worth it. So I'm 52 years of age now. I'm 25 years working pretty much. And I came across breathing back in the late 1990s. And the other aspect of it is I want to spend a considerable time in my day not stuck in my head. So being able to put the critical mind aside and, just to relate to life that way, because then you experience life. And that's a huge part of the work that I do. But even if I was never to do that work just for me.
Yeah. Did you grow up in that environment, or like, I guess, who kind of taught you or gave you these North Stars?
It's like everything else, Mark. The people who find this are the people who were struggling with it in the first place. I was stuck in my head all the time. I had chronic poor sleep, poor breathing patterns, constantly in an increased stress response. I didn't have anxiety. I didn't have ADHD, but I had ADD. I left school initially at 14 years of age, never to go back. Because for me, I'm pretty stubborn. I'm pretty driven as well. I didn't want to sit in a classroom environment in something that I was totally uninterested in. I think the education system is not fit for purpose, full stop. It doesn't teach us what we need to know, and it's teaching us things that we don't need to know. So I did go back to school, and I went to university and I got my grades and I got my degree, but, things could have been a lot easier. I came across it by reading a newspaper article. And once I got some insight into it, I started going down that route, but it started making a difference. And it was a number of layers. The first one was breathing in and out through my nose. The second one was actually reducing breathing volume. I always had cold hands and feet. And when I started breathing less air, and this is contrary to what's normally taught, take a full deep breath or breathe in for 4 and out for 6, but people are often taking full breaths in the process. And it changed my life, And then I was in Canada. I was a few times in Canada because my cousins live in Toronto, outside of Toronto.
Yeah.
And I was there in either 1999 or 2000. I think it was 2000. And I walked into a bookstore and I came across a book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I read it. I read it over and over and over and over. I even recorded the book onto cassettes, played the cassettes in my car, and immersed myself fully in it. And between that and breathing training, the two of them, that was it. I know nothing about anything else.
Yeah.
People ask, I was out in Poland there the weekend. I was talking to a couple of American lads. Sports, do I know anything about sports? I know nothing about sports. Do I do anything other than what I do? I do absolutely nothing. All I've done was 26 years learning how to breathe. That's it.
It's admirable. It's the thing. This is why I love, have been excited to have you on, is that it's kind of crazy to me. And I put myself, it's hard not to judge myself on this one as well. Like, literally the thing that keeps us alive and that can, really shift mental states, physical states, like in all scenarios. And I'm not just saying this to blow smoke your way. I mean, I think it's just true, right? The breath, like we don't really think about it. And there's a lot, and I fall in this camp as well. I mean, there's a lot, I think, of discussion and practices around breathing that is all about bringing in more air. And that's what I found really interesting about reading your latest book it's kind of a little bit of the opposite in a way, right? And like how to help, better your sleep, of course, but then also just improving, just I guess your what do you call it? Like
Mm.
re-educating how we breathe. Like it's all just anyway, I'm going a little bit too fast because I don't wanna jump in there right away. I it's we'll come back to that. What I do wanna know just since, some people on the show won't know who you are in the sense of the work that you're doing, why don't you just give us a bit of a summary of, obviously you've been doing this for quite some time. There was a personal reason there. There was the breathing, information that you came across, and then there was Eckhart Tolle's book. What was it about that book that really captivated you?
I, s- you know, in terms of the power of now and accessing present moment awareness, I was already on that journey. But
Sure.
Eckhart Tolle's book was something that really resonated with me. That when I was reading the book, it would actually take me into presence. I wasn't just reading the book for the words itself. In many aspects,
Yeah, that's
it's not the
powerful.
easiest book to read. But you get a sense of
Yeah.
books. Like there's some authors who were really, really helpful for me, and then other authors that I got absolutely nothing out of. I got nothing out of Deepak Chopra. Nothing. I would read his book, and it
Yeah.
didn't do anything for me. Krishnamurti's book was pretty good. Osho's, a lot of Osho's stuff was pretty good as well. Like I only judged it not by the context of the words itself, but the degree it was able to bring the mind into stillness. And above all of the
Yeah.
books, Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now is way beyond it. Now, of course, like I have the likes of the Course of Miracles and different books like that, but yeah, Tolle's was the most accessible, was the one that really did it.
But do you think it's just because you're maybe ready to receive it? Because I feel like that book, I know I've read it before and I couldn't, like you said, it's a challenging book to bring in. And I feel like I've spoken to others as well where then maybe 2, 3 years down the road or at some point in their life, they're kind of raving about the book just like you are. And it's kind of feel like people have made a shift in their own life where they're ready to actually fully consume that, right? Do you think that was the scenario for
I think
you?
it takes a number of things, like I come into that book after working on my own self for about 2 or 3 years. So I wasn't new to
Yeah.
it. My mental noise had subsided somewhat. There was already a gap between thoughts. I had experienced present moment awareness. I could be standing at the side of a road and I would look at a tree, but I'm not looking at it through analytical thought. You can sense the aliveness of it.
Mhm.
And it's one of those
Yeah.
strange things. Like it's so simple and not so simple. It's so simple to say to somebody, stop thinking, you know? Because if you stop thinking, then
Yeah.
you're not living in your head. And if you stop thinking, then you can merge your senses with what's going on around you. You can see without looking through the veil of thinking. You can listen, you can smell,
Mhm.
you can taste, you can touch. You're bringing your senses into what you're doing. But more often than not, everything we do, it's going through the analytical mind, and the mind has been trained how to think. And we need to have some gap in that mental noise. And once we start to get a little bit of the stillness, that can just be gently developed. And it's not about going from here to there. It's not about saying, well, I have something to achieve, because then we'll go back into square one. And sometimes people will say to me, it's very difficult. And listen, what's the alternative? We're either stuck in our head or we're not. Like, how many people go
Yeah.
through life living in their head?
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
so
a nice
true.
place to be.
It's so
Like,
true.
that is
No,
not a
it's
good alternative. So, whatever it takes just to gently bring a little stillness into your life, it's really worth it.
so then what came next for you when The Power of Now and the concepts in that book and, of course, everything you were doing in with the breath, when those kinda started to merge, like, what was going on in your life at that point? Where was the work at and
Yeah,
so
I'd
forth?
graduated. I went to a university in Dublin, Trinity College Dublin. Probably some of your listeners are going to be aware of it. And my degree is business economics and social studies. So it's
Okay.
BESS. I was in the corporate world. I was working for a company called Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I was a manager. I
Yeah,
opened
yeah.
up branches in the west coast of Ireland. I hated every bit of it. I absolutely
Mm,
disliked working there, going in of a Monday morning, the pressure that was on top of people, the long hours, the ethos, the culture, everything. There was nothing I liked about it. So I knew I didn't want to do that. And, I think in many ways it propelled me to take the chance that when I came across that newspaper article and it was about the work of a Ukrainian doctor, I then made contact
mm.
through the Russian embassy to Dr. Konstantin Buteyko, and I went over to him. So I
Wow.
changed careers. And, it's not that I'm critical of Enterprise Rent-A-Car, but in many ways, the dislike that I had at that company paved the way for me to be really driven to do something about it. And somebody asked me, like, that experience, I said to people, I will never work for anybody ever again in my life. Never. And I haven't. So I was prepared to go
Yeah.
all in. But luckily, I did put a question out there. And I remember my uncle in Canada, he was saying, what are you going to do? Something like the question you put out to me. And I said, I want to find a job that I love. And he was there almost in disbelief that this is it's impossible. He can't achieve that.
Yeah, yeah,
But the question is, you can. You have to put the question out there. You
yeah,
have to kind of know yourself. It may not be perfect, but there's a lot of people. I don't know what is the estimate of people that are in occupations that they shouldn't be in at all. And you're not going to reach your full potential. Like, there's something marvelous about doing
yeah,
something that suits your skill set. You have a natural ability. You have a want to learn. You have a curiosity. You're going to be more successful at it. It will bring you financial freedom. You will have ups and downs along the way. But because you're weighing it up against the previous hardship that I'd faced. So even when I had a bad day, I would
yeah.
say, well, I might be having a bad day today, but listen, I could be working with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So that's still not a bad day.
Exactly. Totally. Good thing they're not a
Hopefully the
sponsor of the
management of
show. That's
Enterprise
funny.
Rent-A-Car aren't listening to this right now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh gosh. I'm curious, what did you say to, uh, Dr.
Mm.
Buteyko? Is that how you say it? D Yeah, what was the message, or did you just arrive there? Like,
No,
how did
because I
that
didn't know Russian. So I
that
had to
whole
contact the Russian embassy in Dublin. And I asked him, can you track down this
Okay.
doctor? Now, I knew he was pretty well known in Russia. Even though he's a Ukrainian, and they were able to track him down. So obviously, then they gave me a telephone number.
Wow.
I called their office, and it took me a couple of attempts, and then I got somebody who was able to speak English there. And it was broken enough English, but I said, I wanted to go over. I wanted to learn your method. I want to teach this method in Ireland. And that's what I did.
Wow. So what is the method? Because that's it's still at the from my understanding, it's still at the heart of kind of everything that you do,
It's
right?
still at the heart of it, even though we work now with health and also with sports performance. Um, The
Yeah.
method is about normalizing breathing volume. It's taking into consideration that the most important aspect of your breathing is the volume of air that you draw into your lungs over 1 minute. It's not just the respiratory
Okay.
rate, it's not just the tidal volume, but it's minute volume. But of course, minute volume is calculated by the number of breaths per minute that you take, by the size of the breath, the volume of air that you draw in with that breath to give you a minute ventilation. And the most common form of breathing pattern disorder or dysfunctional breathing is hyperventilation syndrome. So this means that the
Mm,
person is breathing just a little bit too fast and too hard every minute, every hour, every day. And the ironic thing about breathing is if you breathe more air than what you need, you're actually depriving your body, your tissues, your organs, including the heart and brain, of blood flow and oxygen. It's so strange that
yeah.
people have not caught this on. And it's so strange that the typical breathing practice that you see all the time is take in a full deep breath and breathe out through the mouth. And it just does not make any sense. It doesn't help the person. I don't know what people are getting out of it. because I knew when I started breathing less air, I could sense a feeling of calmness. I'd increased watery saliva in the mouth. I was feeling sleepy. I'd warmer hands. And the more I was breathing through my nose,
Mm,
including sleep, like I started taping my mouth closed back in 1998. It's almost that mouth
yeah,
taping
yeah,
is now normal, but we're 27
yeah,
years on, you know? So
yeah.
that's how long it took. It took 20 years. And I'm going to say a number of predictions. Nasal breathing is going to be huge in sports in the next 2 to 5 years. And,
Yeah, I could
and
see
also
that.
breathing less air is going to get a lot of attention. And it will be brought into yoga because it was the foundation in yoga breathing up until 1880. See, this is the bizarre thing about breathing. You know, breathing got distorted along the way. So if you were to look at original breathing in yoga, it was about conservation of the breath. There was a lot of emphasis put on breathing less air, breathing light, doing breath holds. And yogi masters could hold their breath for 2 or 3 minutes. So they were able to stop breathing for a length of time, you know. And it was in 1880 that a movement in Europe, people were dying with tuberculosis. And this movement put it out
Okay.
there. It was called the hygiene movement. That in order to prevent germs from spreading throughout the body, you need to ventilate all regions of the lungs. So take a full deep breath. And it was the full deep breath then that started coming into being because there had to be something that was doing it. And, you know, message can change. All you need is one or two influential people to change states and to change minds.
So
It's
wild.
really wild. Like, it's almost that it's hard to
Wow.
believe. And that's not just my take on it.
Yeah.
You know, there was a yoga instructor out here about 10 years ago called Robin Rottenberg. She's based in Seattle, Fall City in Seattle. And she's a yoga instructor of 30 years, and she's a yoga therapist teaching other yoga instructors. So she's well up in the field of yoga. And she stayed here just learning about breathing less air. And then she decided to write a book on it. And she spent a number of months just looking at the research. And that's when she discovered that the original breathing in
Okay.
yoga was about breathing less air. And then by coincidence, I was writing a book, Breathing for Yoga, about 2 years ago. And this researcher from Austria, she sent me an email. Like, it's amazing timely and synchronicity or coincidence or whatever you call them. But her name was Magdalena Crawler. She was in my city, which is only about 60,000 people. And she sent me an email and she says, Patrick, she says, I'm writing. I know. She says, I've written a PhD thesis on yoga breath. Do you want to meet up for a cup of coffee? I said, absolutely. I said, I'm writing a book, Breathing for Yoga. Met her for the cup of
Yeah.
coffee and started looking at what she had discovered and interweaving that in the book. And then she contributed to the book. She read through the book. She made changes, you know, so it's amazing. Yeah. So yoga
Yeah.
teachers,
Well, this the Eckhart Tolle's
well,
coming in.
it's, who knows, you know,
Right.
but like
Yeah.
oftentimes I often like, and maybe you have that question as well, Mark, how come things have came so easy for us? And I'm not saying that
Mm,
life throws us a curveball, but I remember when I was in my early 20s and I was wanting to be successful and I had set up my goals and I was living in my head all the time and it was just a constant struggle and things wouldn't come my way,
yeah.
you know. And when I stepped off the pedal and when I started living more in present moment awareness, things just came to me so much easier. Now, of course, you know, there are life's ups and downs. That's normal. Um, but when I look back, like the last 25 years, I spent 25 years stuck in my head and 25 years out of my head, and there's no comparison. And I know it's a challenge. I know it's
Wow.
frustrating. I know it takes a bit of work and it takes a bit of discipline. But you know what? That's where it's at.
Well, just knowing, given a lot of the work I do out there within teams and mental fitness and so forth, I mean, I know the data and you know, I wish this wasn't the case, but most people are stuck living in their minds and just, you know, their minds are not working for them. They're working against them essentially most days. And of course I fall in and out of that as well. I'm human, but I'm curious for you then, let's bridge the gap. Like what I imagine it's a, you know, a combination of things, but if we focus in on the breath, you know, what are some of the practices or perspectives maybe we can take to help, you know, get to that other side essentially, right? Because I think we just as humans, we deserve to feel great more days than not. Like, and it's the opposite right now.
In order to reduce rumination of the mind, we need to fuel the brain. And if we want to fuel the brain, we have to think about blood flow and we have to think about oxygen. If we want to increase oxygen
Yeah.
delivery to the brain and we want to improve our blood flow, it's not about taking more breaths. It's not about breathing fuller. You could even breathe slowly and overbreathe. So breathing slow doesn't mean breathing less air. If we want to improve blood flow to the
Okay.
brain, we have to think of carbon dioxide. And all you have to do is put in Google carbon dioxide, cerebral vasodilator. So here's a gas that we produce internally in the body. It's produced as a byproduct of the metabolism. And this gas is coming from the tissues back to the lungs, and we breathe out excess carbon dioxide. We only breathe out about 15%. We need to hold on to 85%. If we're over
Mm.
breathing, we're getting rid of too much carbon dioxide. That in turn then is causing blood vessels to narrow. We are reducing blood flow to the brain. Every minute, every hour, every day. It's not just reducing blood flow. The loss of carbon dioxide increases blood pH, and the increase in blood pH increases brain cell excitability. So we have 83
Okay.
83 billion brain cells, and each brain cell is communicating with about 7,000 brain cells. So there's a lot of connectivity and activity that's going on in the human brain. And we have to think of, number one, 15 to 20% of cardiac output goes to the brain. Number two, the brain consumes 20% of the oxygen coming into the body. And then we ask the question, what if we have an individual who is unknowingly breathing too hard and too fast, that they have a respiratory rate of maybe 16 breaths per minute? Their tidal volume could be 600-700 mil. That's causing an increase to their minute ventilation, which they are depriving their brain of blood. And that was me. I was in
Mm.
a state of brain fog all the time. I never realized that connection. And I remember going in to do an exam, and this is where, breathing can be misleading. I was stressed going in because I was a chronic mouth breather, faster breather, harder breather. I said, I'm going to go for a walk before I go into the exam hall. I'll walk for about 2 minutes. What did I do for the 2 minutes? I took full deep breaths. I can genuinely,
Yeah.
and I knew nothing about breathing at that time. Zero. This is back, 1995, 1996. I was still a couple of years before I came across breathing. I sat down in the exam hall, and it took me about 10 to 15 minutes for my head to come round. And the reason being was because I already had dysfunctional breathing. And then I went for a walk and I took hard, full, deep
You
breaths,
boosted it.
and I did. And the delay back to recovery was quite long. So rumination is impacted by blood flow
Okay.
to the brain. It's impacted by blood pH. It's impacted by oxygen delivery. Another thing that influences rumination is sleep quality. So 50%
Mm.
of the adult population is estimated to be breathing through an open mouth during sleep. Probably the same with children. There's more research in children. The studies can vary between 25 and say 55% with kids. You never wake up with a dry mouth in the morning. If you wake up with a dry mouth in the morning, you're more likely to have poor sleep quality and to wake up feeling unrefreshed. So if we ever
Yeah.
want to get to the crux of rumination, it's not just about paying attention. We can pay attention to something all day long, but if we have dysfunctional breathing patterns, if we are breathing through an open mouth, if we are breathing high in the upper chest, if we are over breathing, if we have poor sleep, all of those things are going to feed into rumination of the mind. And
Mm.
there's nothing new about this. It's known since 1924 that carbon dioxide and blood pH has an impact on brain cell excitability. There's research in the last couple of decades focusing on the default mode network. There's a few recent papers that come out. Individuals, if they are breathing through an open mouth, the parts of the brain that is associated with speech light up. Speech involves thinking. So when we breathe through the nose, we have to think that the nose is directly connected to the brain via the olfactory nerve. There's a lot of communication going on there. So the conduct and rhythm that's going on in the brain, the connectivity of different regions of the brain, the activity of the brain is influenced by whether we are breathing nasal or mouth breathing. So, I think there's
Okay.
so much that we can do. And here's the thing, like I spent 2-3 years writing this course with 4 other psychotherapists. I'm not a psychotherapist. I only teach breathing. Psychotherapists and people who are trained in psychology, including a PhD in psychology. We put together a new course. Because to date, there is no breathing training that's specifically really doing a deep dive for mental health. And I mean, looking at depression, anxiety, panic disorder, high stress, racing mind, etc., etc. So it's calling out, it's crying out for attention. You can't just say to somebody, breathe in 4, hold for 7, out for 8, or breathe in for 4 and out for 6. It's not addressing everyday breathing patterns. It's not addressing breathing from a
Yeah, yeah.
multidimensional point of view. Like, I know I can continue talking, but if you're teaching a breathing exercise, we should be making sure that we're actually improving that person's underlying breathing. You need a breathing assessment at the start. You need specific breathing exercises tailored to that individual. And then you need a breathing assessment 4 or 6 weeks later. Then we're doing something with breathing. But if you say to somebody, breathe in for
Yeah.
4 seconds and out for 6, and say that's all about breathing, it's not even scratching the surface. In actual fact, breathing in for 4 and out for 6 could be the worst thing you could do, because that person is already feeling uncomfortable with their breathing. And if they slow down the breath from, say, 20 breaths per minute down to 6 breaths per minute, they're feeling uncomfortable with their breath. They take full deep breaths and they could overbreathe in the process. So, a conversation needs to be had. What is breathing? What does it involve? And
Yeah.
is it really getting it? That's where it's at. We need to do much
Well,
deeper dive into it.
I love that you and the team are doing it because I mean, I'm victim to all of this and probably have, because for me, breathing and various breathwork practices have been really, at least I think on the surface level, helpful. But I mean, to your point, I think that for the most part, they're like short bursts, or micro moments, or we're gonna do this for, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and you're and even the language, I think is not appropriate because it's like you're gonna oxygenate your entire
Not true.
body, but you're hyperventilating. It's
Correct.
not true. I'm thinking of Wim Hof style
It's
breathing,
not true.
right?
Yeah,
Which is
it's
yeah,
absolutely
but
like, this is where I would really encourage people to look at the research, look at the science, look at the physiology. Now, I will say this, of course, people are getting benefits from doing hyperventilation exercises. Um,
yeah,
if you look at conscious connected breathing, or if you look at holotropic breathing, it's a tremendous release and reset. So it definitely
okay,
serves a purpose. Whereas what I want to do is I want to look at a person's everyday breathing. I want to improve
yeah.
their
Like,
everyday
what are you doing
breathing.
99% of the
Correct.
time,
That's the focus for me.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then how do we so let's talk about it a little bit. Like why don't we first define from the everyday breathing perspective what over breathing is, and then just so people, have a general understanding like, oh, that might be me. And then I know there's some different exercises and so forth that you mentioned in the book that we can help basically re-educate our how we breathe and slow things down um and I would love some detail on I forget what you call it, the one where you take in, 20 or
Mhm.
30% less oxygen or of a breath, and that plays tricks on my mind
Sure.
still. I mean, I just started reading your book, but I was like, "Okay." It's something to wrap your head around. So, anyway, I'll stop there.
The easiest way to kind of get an idea of what's good breathing versus not so good breathing is ask yourself, how do you breathe if you get into a stressful situation? Everybody knows how they breathe. You know, do you breathe faster or slower? You breathe faster. Do you breathe harder or lighter? You breathe harder. Do you have regular breathing or
Yeah.
irregular breathing? You have irregular breathing. When we get stressed, we can stop breathing, we can breathe more, we can sigh more. Are we breathing upper chest, or with good recruitment of the diaphragm, it's upper chest breathing? Is it mouth or nose? It's very often mouth breathing. What's the ratio of the breath? Is it 1 to 1? What's the ratio of the inhalation to the exhalation? So with stress, we typically breathe relatively fast, both in and out. So the ratio is more likely to be 1 to 1. So therefore, we
Mhm.
breathe when we're stressed. We breathe mouth, fast, shallow, irregular, harder, with a ratio that's 1 to 1. But this also is going to influence how we react to that situation. So it's not just that our breathing
Mhm.
changes when we get into a difficult situation. If we are breathing a little bit like that all of the time, we're also keeping us stuck in this increased sympathetic drive, this increased stress response. So functional breathing, good breathing, on the other hand, is in and out through the nose. The nose does everything for the breath. The mouth does absolutely nothing. There's nothing inside the mouth that serves any purpose for breathing. What's inside our mouth? Our teeth, our tongue, hard palate, soft palate, saliva, gums, etc. Nothing in there for the breath. Nothing. Zero. So the mouth is an emergency. The nose does everything. The nose is a minimum of 32 functions in terms of respiration that the mouth
Oh,
doesn't
wow.
have. Now, I'm not saying you have to be an absolute purist, but I'm saying is look at the bigger picture.
Mhm.
Do your physical exercise with the mouth closed. Be sleeping with your mouth closed. During rest with your mouth closed. Talking, it's inevitable that you're going to have some mouth breaths. During hard physical exercise, it's inevitable that you will switch to mouth breathing. We're looking at the bigger picture here.
Mhm.
And then think about LSD, light breathing. L means light. It's silent.
Okay.
It's soft. Slow means that the respiratory rate is normal. And D means that you've got good recruitment of the diaphragm. You don't have to take a full deep breath to have good recruitment of the diaphragm. Breathing is regular. The ratio of the breath out to the breath in during rest is 1 to 1.5. And also there's a natural pause at the end of exhale. So to differentiate between the two, everybody knows
Mm.
how we breathe when we get stressed. We should not be breathing that way all the time. It'll keep us stressed. So how do we change
Yeah.
our breathing patterns? Instead of breathing mouth, breathe nose. Instead of breathing hard, breathe light. Instead of breathing fast, breathe slow. Instead of breathing high, breathe deep. Instead of breathing irregular, have regular breathing patterns. And the ratio, we always want to tell the brain that we're safe. We don't do that from the speed of the inhale. We do it from the speed of the exhale. People can testify this, or they can test it themselves. Locate the speed of the heart rate just at the angle of the jaw. You'll get a sense of during inspiration, the heartbeat is slightly faster. The time beat to
Okay.
beat is slightly shorter. And during expiration, the heart rate is slower. So the time beat to beat is slightly longer. So there's heart rate variability there. And that's very, very important, that it implies that the nervous system is in more balance. Whereas if you notice that
Okay.
the speed of the heart rate during inspiration to the speed of the heart rate during expiration is quite similar, it can indicate that the body is in this increased stress response. So then we can start you off with a few different exercises. Like people with a lot of mind activity, sometimes they don't feel comfortable paying attention to their breath. Sometimes they feel, like just a not good relationship with their breathing. So therefore, breathing
Mm.
exercises, we have to take that into consideration. So I'm going to start you off with an exercise that I would use with somebody who's very uncomfortable with their breathing, because they can still make progress. So this is an exercise to practice to tell the brain that you're safe when you're feeling very stressed. So what I'd like you to do, Mark, is take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and hold your
Okay.
nose gently and count for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then let go, but breathe in through your nose. And now just breathe normally in and out through your nose for about 15 seconds or so. So when the mind feels heavy, hold your breath. Hold your breath for a short period of time. And again, take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and pinch your nose and hold. And hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let go, breathe in through your nose, and breathe normally for about 15 seconds or so. We shouldn't hear your breathing when you're doing the breath in and breath out. It's just a normal breath in and a normal
Mm.
breath out.
Okay.
And again, take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and pinch your nose and hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let go, but breathe in through your nose and breathe normally for about 15 seconds or so. And again, take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and pinch your nose and hold. And hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let go, breathe in through your nose, and breathe normally for about 15 seconds or so. And again, take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose and pinch your nose and hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let go. Breathe in through your nose and breathe normally for about 15 seconds or so. And again, take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose and pinch your nose and hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let go. Breathe in through your nose. Okay. So that's a very simple exercise. It's called our breathing recovery
Mhm.
sitting. You do that if, for example, somebody has asthma symptoms, if the head is feeling quite heavy, because we're holding the breath at the end of exhalation, which is helping to stimulate the
Yeah.
vagus nerve, because it's during expiration, during exhalation, during the breath out. If we can lengthen the speed of the breath out, that in turn then can convey to the brain that we are okay, that we're safe. The brain then sends signals of calm to the body.
I mean, I feel calm, but I have to say doing it, it is so, like, I think, and I'm probably not the only one, requires some training because even when you're saying, "Okay, take the breath in," and knowing that I'm gonna, plug my nose, I instinctively wanna
Yeah,
and, like, take right? And which but that's all of the other practices
yeah,
essentially just kinda creeping
yeah.
in.
Like the measure of this is what I would say to people: the only way to find out where the truth is to try it. That's all.
Yeah, for
Is to
sure.
try it. And like deep breaths never did anything for me. All they did was I would feel lightheaded. I just wouldn't feel right. Now I understand. Okay, if you do say a
Yeah,
session of conscious connected breathing, there's something definitely there. It is therapeutic. There's no
yeah,
doubt. But I'm talking about, say, chronic, constantly taking deep breaths at different times during the day, frequent sighing, in the belief that it's going to help you. Um, Now, you might say, well, it feels good when I have a sigh, but it feels good because you're getting rid of air hunger. But the question is, why do we have air hunger in the first place? There's a breathing pattern disorder there. We feel that we're not taking a deep breath.
yeah,
We feel that we're not getting enough air. Why do we feel we're not getting enough air? Because our breathing is either off from a biochemical point of view, or a biomechanical point of view, or a psychophysiological point of view. That's just it. So if your breathing is off, well,
yeah,
then we need to look at how do we improve breathing patterns. So do you want to give
yeah.
another exercise a go?
Yeah,
Okay, so to
absolutely.
decongest the nose, you simply hold the breath
Oh, I did
for a
this one the
longer
other night.
period of time. And again, this is something that your listeners can practice pretty easily. Yeah. So what I
Yeah,
would like you to do is
this is
your lips
good.
are together. Take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose, and pinch your nose and hold your nose, and just gently nod your head up and down while holding your breath, and do it just to a count of maybe 10 head nods. So there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Let go there and in through your nose. Excellent. So this one here, you're going to push it a little bit, and always start off with a few easy ones, because people with panic disorder can have quite a strong reaction to air hunger or suffocation. That it's a conditioned response, because every time that they've had a panic attack in the past, especially if they're a respiratory subtype, so if they experience symptoms such as choking and feeling that they're not getting enough air and faster heart rate and they're feeling suffocated, they have to be careful, because they have a
Mhm.
panic attack, they feel suffocated. They have a second panic attack, they feel suffocated. They have a third panic attack, they feel suffocated. But now, as they go about their daily life, if they feel some degree of air hunger, they interpret it as there's a panic attack coming on, which drives up their anxiety,
Mm.
which causes them to breathe faster and harder, which will bring on the panic attack. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to go very gently with it. We want to give ourselves a teaspoon of suffocation to help desensitize the body's reaction to it. And at the same time, we want to hold the breath for long enough that it helps to open up the nose. So,
Well, so just doing it the one round, I already felt the difference on that one, and I think this one's really profound in the sense that, and I'm not, I'm not in this space like you are, but often I've heard people say, "Yeah, I can't really breathe through my nose 'cause it's clogged," or which is I mean, that's already there's something going on, obviously there's something off there in the beginning, but at least this is a way to clear that
Oh,
out,
it's for
which
sure.
it's mind-blowing that literally, in a short period of time, what that can do,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
And the thing about stuffy nose is it wreaks havoc. Anybody listening to this, if
Yeah.
they have a stuffy nose, I know that they're more likely to be tired. I know that they're not likely to
Mhm.
sleep well. Cognitive function, concentration, planning, decision making, holding attention, all of that is impacted by having a stuffy nose. So, and again,
Yeah.
they can look to the research. If you have a stuffy nose, you're 2 to 3 times more likely to have moderate to severe sleep disorder breathing. There's an increased risk of snoring, increased
Yeah,
risk of
makes
sleep
sense.
apnea. And, we talk about rumination of the mind. We will never get to the bottom of rumination of the mind if we have poor sleep. And, this is why, like, if
Mm,
somebody is practicing mindfulness, which is absolutely wonderful, you have to look at your physiology because mindfulness isn't going to address the underlying respiratory physiology, especially if you're a chronic mouth breather, waking up with a dry mouth, breathing faster, breathing harder. Of course, mindfulness is brilliant. You know, we're practicing mindfulness all the time. We're paying attention to the breath,
yeah.
in terms of anapanasati, just holding your attention to your breathing. But it's also important to change your breathing patterns. We need to tell the brain that we're safe. Can we try that
Wow.
once more? And then we'll go on to another exercise.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
whenever you're ready, take a normal breath and always do it at your own. Don't just listen to me, kind of listen to your body. And once you feel comfortable with it,
Mhm.
take a normal breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Sorry there. Did you breathe out? Okay, sorry. Just gently nod your. Okay, let's do it again. That's all right.
Yeah, we'll do it again. All
So,
right.
whenever you're ready, Mark, take a normal breath in through your nose and a normal breath out through your nose, and then hold your nose and just gently nod your head up and down as you hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Can we do two more? 10, 11, and 12, and let go there. Excellent. And the key to that is to
Ah,
push it quite a bit. So if somebody has a head cold or if they have, say, allergy to dust mites or a cat or something like that, that exercise will help open, or pollen, hay fever as well. And the
oh,
thing about the
wow.
human nose is that the more we use it, the better it works. But people won't use it if they feel uncomfortable breathing through it.
Yeah,
So we need to
totally.
decongest it first. Then you feel more comfortable breathing through it. And then the more you breathe through it, the better it will work for you.
Yeah. What's one more thing that we can do? Because what I love about what you're doing, but also I think and it's like, I feel like it's like anything in life worth pursuing, it takes some training, it takes some work. It's not the I mean, this is a bit of an exception. I feel like you get a pretty much immediate results, but again, over time, like, I guess that's the point. Like, we're trying to affect again, re-educate how we're breathing 99% of the time, not in those one moments or that one breathwork session or whatever it is, or the 10 minutes. So with that, it takes some work because we've been literally breathing in different patterns for, pick the number of years or decades, right? So is there what's another thing that we can do that helps, I guess, reprogram or recondition the way that we're just breathing without thinking
Like
about
the
it?
biggest thing is
So that's the goal, I guess, right? Like, you must not be thinking about
no.
your breathing that as often as obviously, 25 years
But the
ago.
thing is, though, I keep on bringing attention to my breath because it's a lovely place and I have a good relationship with my
Mm,
breathing. I can use my breathing if I'm in
mhm,
trouble. I can use my breathing to help self regulate. I can use my breathing and pay attention to it when I'm doing physical exercise. So with that,
mm.
I can breathe comfortably through my nose. I can breathe comfortably low. I feel I can take a deep breath. And I bring attention to my breathing because then I'm out of my head anyway. And
Yeah, it's like it's your
yeah,
pal.
totally. And that's what it's an
Yeah.
amazing tool. If I like you talk publicly and you will get out on stage and you
Mhm.
will talk to It could be a few hundred people, could be more. I don't
Yeah.
know the audiences that you talk to. And that could be,
Yeah, they range, but yeah,
this.
it's still nerve-wracking.
Well, it can be easier. So, like,
Yeah, I know,
that's where
keep
I
going.
use the breath, because I always will say, for example, about an hour before a talk, I will hide in the conference in a corner somewhere, or I might be listening to another
Mhm.
speaker, but I will close my eyes. And during the entire time that I'm listening to the other speaker, I close my eyes, I bring my attention inwards, I take a soft breath in through my nose, the softest of a breath, almost imperceptible. And then I have a really relaxed and slow, gentle breath out. And I underbreathe for
Mm,
most of the time that the speaker is talking. Now, I'll do that as a rest and reset. Number one is I'm out of my head. Number two, I'm improving blood flow to the brain. Number three, I'm increasing oxygen delivery. Number four, I'm bringing balance to the nervous system. Number five, I'm accessing flow states. And then if when I walk out on stage, I don't want to be talking from the head. And most of the times, I don't really like using slides. So I talk freestyle.
yeah,
But I want to be
yeah, I need to flow for
I
that.
want to be in a state of mind that I am absolutely in my body as I'm talking, and I'm talking from every cell of my body, and I have full present moment awareness out there. And if I was to feel that my heart rate was a small bit elevated, all I will do is, before I walk out onto that stage, I will take a soft breath in through my nose and a slow, relaxed, gentle breath out, and I will bring down my heart rate. And the knowledge that I can do that going out on stage, irrespective of who I'm speaking to, it could be 1,200 people, could be 400 people, it could be any
Mhm.
amount of people. It doesn't matter. Having that as you have a confidence there. You can put yourself into challenging situations knowing that you have control over your physiology. So, like, it's a tool that's free, and I pretty much gave it to the
Yeah,
listeners there. But experiment with it.
yeah.
Don't wait until you have a talk in front of 1,200 people before you practice it. Practice it now. So you might feel a bit antsy, you can't get into your emails, and you're feeling a little bit tense over it. Tell your brain you're
Mhm.
safe. Take that soft breath in through your nose and just a relaxed and slow, gentle breath out. And you don't have to time your breathing. In actual fact, it's better if you don't, because what might work for one person won't work for another person. You want to soften your breath relative to how you were breathing at that time. The worst thing possible would be going out on stage or going into a job interview or going in to do a presentation with fast, hard upper chest breathing, because all the body is telling
Mhm.
the brain is that there's a threat. Now the brain is going into survival mode. And if the brain goes into
Yeah,
survival mode, the words are not going to come out. We're not going to be at our best, because all the brain cares about in that instance is get you out of the situation. So the last thing we want to
yeah,
do is
yeah.
hyperventilate. We need to prevent ourselves from hyperventilating. And it's not that you're having a panic attack. Hyperventilation just means that your breathing is just a bit faster and harder than normal. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful. What is the body telling the brain? What is our breathing telling the brain?
It's again, like, I mean, I'm preaching here to you, obviously, but it just it makes such intuitive sense. Like, just even think about how you're describing, like, taking, a nice, slow, gentle breath. Like, is that not how we want to feel versus
Totally.
all the other patterns of breathing are kind of the opposite of that? And so now it's like, as you're shining the light on what I feel like has been sitting right in front of us this whole time, you start thinking of these other kind of breathing patterns like, well, that kind of in I don't really need the science to tell me this, like, it kinda doesn't really make sense
Totally.
intuitively,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
And it's just so the lot I realize we're at time. Do you have a couple more minutes
Yeah, yeah,
just
of
to wrap?
course.
Yeah, okay. Because I just wanted to ask you about, as you mentioned a few times, but when you're bringing in, less oxygen,
Mm,
and this is the thing that I feel like is still a bit of a struggle in
sure.
my mind. I'm trying like, what does that actually feel like? Or
Yeah, let's give it
you
a go.
yeah, I'll
Right.
just stop
I'm
there.
going to
Yeah,
rephrase it though. I'm going to
yeah.
say less air because it doesn't mean less oxygen.
Yes,
In
you're
actual
right.
fact, you can breathe less air
It's
and you
more.
can have increased oxygen getting to where it's needed. So, what we're going to do is,
Yeah,
Mark, we're going to breathe now in a way to improve blood flow and oxygen to the brain. Does that make sense? And
okay.
it involves breathing less air.
Yes.
And I know that people are going to say, well,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is incorrect. Well, try it. Okay. So what I would like you to
Yeah.
do is put one hand on your chest and one hand just above your navel. And to breathe in and out through your nose, of course. And ideally, if your tongue is resting in the roof of the mouth, because that helps to open up the airway. And there may be something relaxing is also about having the tongue resting up against the palate. So you're bringing your attention out of your mind and onto your breath. And don't care how you do it. So just pay attention to your breathing. You kind of have a passive approach to it. You're feeling the slightly colder air coming into your nose, and you're feeling the slightly warmer air as it's leaving your nose. And all I would like you to do is that as you're breathing, can you soften and slow down the speed of the air coming into your nostrils? So can you really slow down the speed of air coming into your nose? Almost that your breath in is imperceptible. And on the breath out, can you bring a total feeling of relaxation to your body and allow a slow and relaxed and a gentle breath out? So the whole thing is to soften and slow down your breathing to the point that you feel that you would like to take in a deeper breath. It's hitting the sweet spot, not too little, not too much, just right. You should feel the same way as if you're going for a walk. So if you're going for a walk and you're going at a decent pace and you're feeling a little bit breathless, but you have total control over your breathing. If the sensation of air hunger is too much, take a rest and then come back to it. So let's continue with that. You're taking a very, very soft and slow, gentle breath in. We cannot hear your breathing. It's almost that you can hardly feel the airflow coming into the body. Your breathing volume now is less than what it was before you started. You're taking that soft breath in. Can you breathe so quietly that the fine hairs within the nose don't even move? That there's no turbulence at all with the airflow coming into the nose, that the airflow is so smooth coming into the nose that you're hardly breathing at all. And then at the top of that soft breath, bring a total feeling of relaxation to the body and allow a slow and relaxed, gentle breath out. It can be a little bit tricky to practice, but continue with it for another minute or so, just softening the breath. And all you have to think in your mind is, you are now telling your brain that you're safe. We never breathe this way when we're stressed. We never have a soft breath in through the nose. We never have a slow, relaxed, gentle breath out when we're stressed. We do the opposite. So here, if stressed breathing involves mouth breathing and faster breathing and harder breathing, well, how do we bring the body into relaxation? We do the opposite. You're breathing in through the nose so softly. You're breathing out through the nose so softly. You're not breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. You want to have that nice, relaxed, gentle exhale. You need to feel that you're not getting enough air. The sensation that you're not getting enough air indicates the carbon dioxide has increased just a little in your lungs and blood. As carbon dioxide increases in your blood, it improves blood flow. So your blood vessels open up. 50,000 miles of blood flow throughout the human body is improving. You also have increased oxygen delivery because what happens here is the increased carbon dioxide causes a slight drop to blood pH, and hemoglobin, which is the carrier of oxygen in the blood, releases oxygen more readily when pH is a little bit lower. So it's not that we want to create acidity. That's not the point at all. We want to have normal breathing volume, normal oxygenation, normal carbon dioxide, and normal blood pH. So because the thing is, chronic stress, modern living is stressful on us. We breathe faster, we breathe harder, we have expectations, many of us have perfectionist tendencies, we set high demands on ourselves. Our breathing is affected by all this. Our breathing is so susceptible to whatever is going on in the environment. So we are really, you could say that we're treating our breathing badly. We're treating it badly unknowingly because, what life is doing to us. And life is so much softer when we can bring our attention onto the breath. And it's important as well that we bring our attention into the body. We take that soft, gentle breath in. You could be in a sauna, soft breath in, relaxed, slow, gentle breath out. Watching TV this evening, reading a book, just waiting for somebody. Instead of scrolling on the phone, which is feeding us with all of this overstimulation and causing us to be hyper-aroused, which in turn is going to change our breathing patterns. Bring our attention into the body. Love the boredom. Love the quiet time. hold our attention on the breath, take that soft breath in through the nose and the relaxed and slow and gentle breath out. Take a rest at that mark. But like Mark, like it's
Oh,
by the way,
it's so I mean, I gotta start the day like that, and I love, like, just stacking it into those moments, start the day, end the day, in the middle of the day, but just taking the time to slow down and, like, slow down the breath and the gentleness, like, it's just all like, you can't help but not feel that throughout the entire body,
mm,
right? Even even the visualization of it,
yeah,
right?
and
It's,
like for people
oh,
who are curious and into the science, I would say absolutely tease this
yeah,
apart and look at the physiology. Not necessarily using ChatGPT, it doesn't always give you good answers. Google would be better,
yeah,
especially PubMed. If you put in the right keywords, put in carbon dioxide, cerebral blood flow, ask, how do I increase blood flow to the brain? So here is an organ
mhm,
that's so vital. And our quality of life, our ability to do anything in life is going to be impacted by what's going on in the brain. And yet we never consider, how can I improve fuel to the brain? How can I improve oxygen delivery to the
mm,
brain? How can I bring balance to the nervous system? You know, the science is starting to catch up. If you do a Google search of chronic fatigue syndrome and dysfunctional breathing,
okay,
there was a study just published in November of this year, and it looked at a number of people with chronic fatigue. What was the percentage of them with dysfunctional breathing? It was 50%, one in two. And the issue with dysfunctional breathing is that it keeps us stuck in that increased stress response. And there's so many resources then going to that stress response that it's consuming so much energy, and it's going to then contribute back into the chronic
yeah.
fatigue. So like we have to
Well, and then you step out into the world and you just get hit. It's constant. It's no wonder we have so many challenges with the mind right now. I mean,
totally.
it's not shocking.
Oh, it's
Huh,
yeah,
this is, well, I mean, speaking of resources, you've written several books, at this point. So where's the best place to point people so they can browse the bookshelf? Because 'Cause they're having just read your latest, I mean, they're very practical, just like what we just did here literally on this show. I mean, this is like, I already can't wait to I'm gonna look at days or periods in my day where I can stack this onto another habit just to help form that habit, and
yeah.
for sure the first thing in the morning, as opposed to doing what I actually like. I've always liked to start the day with more of a, like, kind of Wim Hof style breathing, but then I'm like, I don't know if that's the right way to start the day. I mean, I feel like I should be training my
Yeah.
breath, just like I'm training everything else first thing in the morning. So,
Like,
yeah,
I think
thank you.
different breathing techniques suit different people. I like
Sure.
I like the softer stuff. Now I do dynamic breath holds as well, like breathe in, breathe out and hold my breath, jog 20,
Yeah,
30, 40, 50, 60 meters holding the breath. That's my stressor, but I don't do the hyperventilation beforehand. So, and the reason being is
yeah,
because if I was to hyperventilate, well, number one is if you do a breath hold after hyperventilation, there's a risk of you passing out because your blood oxygen saturation can go too low. So I actually do it to specifically increase carbon dioxide in the lungs and blood, not to use the hyperventilation to get rid of too much CO2. But you know what? These are just the exercise that I feel drawn to. And I think we're all a little bit like that.
sure.
And that's why for people,
Yeah,
if you understand different breathing exercise, go with the ones that are getting the most benefit for you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Where can I point people, Patrick?
We have a website called buteicoclinic.com, and that's all about health. So if you have asthma, if you have sleep disorder breathing, or if you have anxiety, that's the website for you. We have another website
Okay.
called Oxygen Advantage, and this is about mental and physical performance. So corporate world, sports, people who want to use the
Yeah,
breathing to, just to improve their performance. And then I've 11 books. The first one was written back in 2003 called Close Your Mouth. And they've all been popular. The most
yeah,
popular is the Oxygen Advantage, but there's another one then, the Breathing Cure and Breathing for Yoga. There's Atomic Focus. So it
yeah.
really depends what people want to get out of them.
Exactly. Well, there's I mean, I would just encourage people to go in open and I mean, already people that are listening here are here because they are open and curious, I would say, to trying different things and they want their mind, their body to be, functioning optimally, essentially. And um so I'm not worried about that with this audience, but just I'll make sure everything's in the show notes so we can jump into your work and of course there's the courses as well and yeah, and just have fun with all of this. Like I'm already like you can probably tell from the smiles. Like I'm excited to go on this adventure. It feels really empowering to know, of course, that like we can control our breath. For I mean, it's in us, and that there are just so many benefits, and it feels exciting to explore and experiment with all
Totally.
of that.
And,
So
Mark, a point that I'd made
yeah,
earlier on, like people might be asking, well, if I'm doing a breathing technique, how if I know if I'm actually improving my breathing patterns? And we have a measurement called the BOAT score, which is the length of time that you can comfortably hold your breath for. And people will find that on YouTube.
mm,
There's also a questionnaire that was developed by a researcher called Rory Darkins, and it's called Perceived Breath Mastery. Now, I think it's a wonderful questionnaire. It's a questionnaire that I have been looking for 23 years. So if
okay,
people, they'll find it online. It's free. Download the PDF,
okay,
fill it out, and see where you're starting at. What's your starting point? And then practice
yeah,
the Buteyko Method or Oxygen Advantage for 4 weeks, for 5 weeks, and see how you are at the end of 4 weeks, 1 month. And the thing about this is breathing, the point that you made about it, it always should be accessible. We don't need a mat. We don't need to be in a particular pose. We don't need to be looking a certain way. You can just bring it into your normal everyday life. Like when you go for a walk, how are you breathing? If you're doing your yoga, how are you breathing? If
hmm
you're in the sauna, how are you breathing? How are you breathing at different points? If you're stressed, how are you breathing? Is your breathing there to help you to cope with all of the demands that are placed upon us? Or is our breathing unknowingly sabotaging us because we don't realize that breathing is a tremendous tool that we have for us? And that's the way it should be.
hmm yeah. There's the episode title right there. Thank you,
Right.
Patrick. Is your breathing sabotaging your life? There it
Good
is.
stuff.
You don't need any AI for that. There it is. Patrick, this has been fantastic. I just feel so grateful our paths have crossed, and I mean, I suspect there'll be other ways that they will continue to cross as well, which is exciting. So, thank you, of course, for the time today, for leading all of us through some practices as well, and then I think a higher thank you for just almost 3 decades of focus and energy towards this topic. Uh, I mean, I don't need to tell you, but the ripple effect of what you're doing it's hard to measure that, right? I mean, literally, you're activating people's minds and lives in ways that people don't even know is possible. So that's quite profound. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. I was lucky, you know. Things fell into my lap, but I did put the question
But
out there.
some,
But other than
yeah,
that,
for
life
sure.
kind of directs us in certain ways, and it's nice to go with that.
Yes, for sure. And here's to enterprise.
Yeah, thank you very much,
Let's bring
Enterprise
in
Rent Car.
let's bring in some breath work over there. Until next time.